morning. Look at temperatures in rural parts of southern England. They could get to freezing in a few spots. So quite widely some grass frost at least, and a bright sunny start. But through the day, cloud will increase across Scotland to bring some rain here, particularly to the north, and gradually the cloud will then meander its way southwards through Saturday night and into Sunday. But still pleasantly warm, feeling pleasantly warm in that strong September sunshine. Further south, a bit more cloud as you can see on Sunday, drifting southwards. There's the chance of a shower on this very weak weather front by that stage, later Sunday and into Monday. But again, similar temperatures. We are just heading in, as I say, to a chillier spell than we've had for some time, but it is set largely dry.
Welcome to BBC News. Our headlines this hour. Tens of thousands of people queue to pay their respects to Queen Elizabeth as she lies in state in Westminster Hall. The queue outside is now several miles long, and people from all around the country have travelled to join it and say a final farewell.
And I'm Chi-Chi Zindu, who joined the queue earlier this afternoon. It's taken us about 4 hours to get to this point, just next to Westminster Bridge, and we've still got a little way to go.
At the other end of the world, in another of those countries that is part of the family that looked to the Queen for so long, Maori leaders in New Zealand have been paying tribute to Her Majesty the Queen. We look back at the historic apology she signed for the killings they experienced under her ancestors.
I'm Martine Croxall in the BBC studio. In other news, in Ukraine, amid the devastation of conflict, more claims of atrocities committed by Russian troops. What will happen to energy bills next month? We take a look at what the changes might mean for all of us. A splash of pink at the funeral of 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbell, killed by a gunman in Liverpool last month.
Hello and welcome to Westminster, the heart of civic, public and institutional life in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the last opportunity for members of the public over the coming days to say their goodbyes and pay their respects to the country's longest serving monarch as Queen Elizabeth lies in state. It's the first full day that she has lain in state in central London after the body was brought from Edinburgh with all the ceremonial in the company of members of her family. We're not seeing them during the course of this day. This is a day very much for members of the public, the queuing of people who have given up the last several hours of their day to queue along the bridges, along both sides of the River Thames, to follow what, it's that curious shot you just saw there from above, which shows the chicane that's been provided, a zigzag section when people come almost, they can almost see the Palace of Westminster and feel like they're at the last leg, and then there is the chicane to try and slow down the and process the numbers so that there is no congestion. The thing they want to avoid most of all, congestion at the very front of the queue, just where people reach the sort of airport-style security. The purpose of this really is to manage in a dignified manner the opportunity for members of the public to pay their respects and to maximise the amount of time that's available for people to do that. They have from yesterday throughout day and night for the coming 4 days through the weekend until Monday at 6:30 a.m. when the last member of the public will be ushered from the Great Hall of Westminster and the funeral day itself will begin. We know more about the arrangements for Monday's funeral. Royal officials confirmed today, Thursday, the details of the arrangements for the funeral of Queen Elizabeth. The service itself will be held at Westminster Abbey in central London, again one of the oldest buildings in the UK, and the Queen is then to be taken after the service is completed by carriage through the streets of central London, through the streets of West London, out through the suburbs and then beyond towards Berkshire to the Royal Borough of Windsor and to Windsor Castle, a place that she called home as well as a working palace in the heart of a busy market town in England. She will then be interred with the Duke of Edinburgh, her late husband, in St George's Chapel in a private service which will take place at 7:30 in the evening on Monday. Well, King Charles and his sister and brothers will hold a vigil at Westminster Hall at 6:30 on Friday evening. The opportunity then again for us to see them as part of the tribute. The King is reportedly spending today not just resting but also talking to foreign dignitaries and continuing some of the business that's been set aside for the last week since Her Majesty died in Balmoral last Thursday. Now here, Westminster Hall, which is just the other side of the Palace of Westminster, we're looking on the eastern side of the palace, so over on the western end of the building. It's actually the oldest part of the building. It's behind the canopy here. As you look at that shot, down to the bottom left would be where the entrance to Westminster Hall is to be found. If you've ever walked past the Parliament buildings in London, you will have seen it opposite Westminster Underground Station as you cross the road. It's the building on the very corner facing onto the river, and it is the oldest building really in the palaces of Westminster. There is a secret about Westminster: it's not very old. The palace was rebuilt after a devastating fire back in the early 19th century, and it was mostly replaced. The one part of the building that survived is Westminster Hall, and it's an imposing edifice. It was erected in the 1097, so almost 1,000 years ago, on the orders of William II, the son of the Conqueror. It was a banqueting hall. Then it became the place of justice in England, and it served as a place for courts to meet right up into the 1880s. And it was only after 1882, I think I'm right in saying, that the opportunity came for it to be used for commemorations of this kind. The first to receive that honour was a Victorian Prime Minister, William Gladstone, who lay in state there for several nights with people having the opportunity to pay their respects, his colleagues and so on. But as a public mourning opportunity, we're really talking about the last 100 years. As monarchs, one after the other, have died and they've been succeeded, their remains have laid in state inside. So the hall is now open to the public day and night, as I say, until early Monday morning. If we look inside, we can see the sort of scene that is greeting people after they have queued for hours to pay their respects. And it is being guarded, the coffin at the heart of these commemorations is guarded day and night by bodyguards. We'll see in just a few moments the shots that show you the configuration. So as people approach, many of those people you're seeing now will be political figures, members of Parliament and members of the House of Lords, who have the opportunity, along with members of the public, it's obviously their working environment, to join the queue as well, to come in. And then those are the politicians, public figures on the left there, joining other members of the public to come and queue and have a moment, and it is only a moment, but a moment for a personal reflection, a personal prayer, perhaps a personal moment of thanks, or to say goodbye, or maybe even to criticise. Who knows what goes through the minds of those people who have come to pay their respects to the Queen's coffin, which is right on the top there of the catafalque, the frame that supplies the support, which is in red, and the bier, which is in purple, which is effectively the stand is the bier, and the catafalque is the raised structure really on which the coffin is displayed, and that obviously gives people the maximum opportunity to see the coffin draped in the royal standard. And as I say, the guards there is provided 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a guard by members of the Sovereign's Bodyguard, the Household Division or Yeoman Warders of the Tower of London, also standing there. And as I say, we expect the King, Princess Anne and Edward and Andrew to also do their time standing vigil over their mother's coffin. Our correspondent Caroline Hawley has more.
It's a week since the country learned of Queen Elizabeth's death, a week